I lifted the glass, then set it back down. Too full. Too sweet. Too loud. Grant raised his flute-high voice, clear smile, perfect. To Lila, the most important woman in my life, everyone cheered. Flash from a camera. Lila giggled behind her hand. The lights caught the gold trim on the custom cake Queen Lila in cursive script, dusted with edible glitter. I stood near the edge of the living room, hands clasped jaw tight. No one looked in my direction, not even my son. A second toast followed, one of her dental friends, then another from Lila's mother. My beautiful daughter, my best friend. Someone handed me a plate, a child I didn't recognize. Chocolate frosting already smeared on his sleeve. I nodded, took it, didn't eat. They had balloons, custom napkins, a catered buffet. There was a slideshow playing on a screen, photos from Lila's childhood to her college graduation, her white coat ceremony, their wedding. Not a single frame showed me. After dinner, Grant pulled Lila into the center of the room. Music played, soft jazz, something expensive sounding. They slow danced while the crowd clapped and laughed. I slipped out before dessert. No one stopped me. It had always been like this in pieces. My son's warmth saved for others. My name forgotten, my presence convenient, only when they needed something signed, something paid, something cooked. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. Just sat on the edge of my bed, slippers on robe tied, staring at nothing. The next morning, sunlight crawled across my windows. I checked my phone. Nothing. I made coffee. Black. No sugar. 10 o'clock. Still nothing. I opened the cabinet, pulled out a box. Inside, cards from old friends, from co-workers I hadn't seen in years, from Grant back when he still remembered. The last one was dated 5 years ago. By noon, I gave up waiting. I walked to the grocery store, bought flowers. Not for me, for the old woman who lives across the street. She'd lost her dog last month and still stood out front every morning looking down the empty sidewalk. She thanked me like I'd given her diamonds. When I got home, I checked my phone again. No texts, no voicemail. Just a new post from Grant on Facebook, celebrating the most important woman in our lives. Happy birthday, Lila. A photo of her blowing out candles, her mother beside her. Grant leaning in, his hand on Lila's back. A perfect family triangle. I stared at the screen, closed the app, sat at the kitchen table, then opened the drawer, the bottom drawer, the one with the old insurance forms, the leftover checks, the legal envelope Thomas never got around to shredding. It was still there, still in my name, still untouched. I reached for the folder, just to feel it, just to remember. Then I put it back. Tomorrow I'd call someone, not for revenge. Not yet, just to talk. Just to ask what something like that was worth now. I pulled the blinds. Sunlight made the silence worse. The phone rang. Hey, Mom. No apology. No mention of the date he'd skipped. Just the usual warm-up. How are you? I didn't answer right away. Waited. Let the pause stretch. I'm fine, I said. He jumped in. Listen, I didn't want to call just for this, but, well, you know, Lila's been working so hard on the clinic. I sat down. The chair creaked. She's got a chance to expand. A second location. Downtown by the riverfront. It's a huge opportunity, but the bank's being slow with the last chunk. He cleared his throat. We're just trying to cover a bit of the gap. You've always been so supportive. Not a word about last week. She doesn't know I'm asking, he added quickly. But I know it would mean the world to her. To both of us. I looked at the counter. A dish towel still folded from the last time I cooked for them. They never took leftovers home. How much? 10, he said. 1,000. I nodded, though he couldn't see. I'll write a check. His relief was immediate. You're the best mom. Seriously. No one's best. Just convenient. After we hung up, I went to the desk. The checkbook was in the drawer beneath the old birthday cards. I flipped past blank pages, wrote the date, wrote the amount, signed my name like I'd done 100 times before. I didn't mail it. I left it on the kitchen table, stared at it while my coffee went cold. That night I lay awake again, not angry, just used up. There's a weight that comes from years of being invisible. You learn to hold your breath, to nod, to stay useful. That check wasn't for her clinic. It was for permission to be ignored again. 3 days later, Grant came by. First time in months. He didn't sit down, just stood near the door coat still on. Smiled, said, "Thank you," took the envelope. "Lila's going to be so surprised," he said. I smiled too. Barely. He didn't ask how I'd been, didn't ask if I'd celebrated, didn't stay for coffee. When the door closed, I locked it. Then stood there, hand on the knob. They always take. Never ask if there's anything left to give. I turned off the porch light. Let the house go dim. The next morning, I opened the drawer again. Not the one with checks, the one with the deed. I set the casserole down. It was hot. Heavy. Took time. Real sage-browned butter roasted pecans. Lila opened the door, half smile already fading. "We already have stuffing," she said. Then she turned and walked away. I stepped inside. Slipped off my coat. Slid the dish onto the sideboard between store-bought pies and untouched cranberry sauce. The house was warm, over-decorated. Too many garlands, too many candles. Everything picture perfect. No one looked up. Grant didn't hug me, just gave a quick nod from the kitchen deep in conversation about Lila's clinic. 6 more rooms if the permit's clear. I stood by the edge of the island. Waited. No one offered a drink. I poured my own coffee. Dinner passed in a blur. Smiles aimed elsewhere. My seat at the far end next to a cousin I didn't recognize and a toddler who screamed through dessert. I said little, ate slowly, listened. They toasted Lila's work, her patience, her drive. "She's like a second mother to this family," someone said. No one corrected them. After the table cleared, Grant came over. "Hey," he said, pulling a small bag from under his arm. "We got you something. From all of us." I took it slowly. Cream paper, neat bow. The tag read, "To Mom from Grant and Lila." My name wasn't on it. I opened it anyway. Inside a folded silk scarf. Blue and ivory. Floral print. Italian tag. I knew it. I gave it to Lila last Christmas. She had smiled. Barely thanked me. Said she didn't wear scarves but would find a use for it. I guess she had. I held it in my lap while they moved on to pie. No one noticed. No one said my name. Later, as they watched football and passed around wine, I folded the scarf neatly, slipped it back in the bag, left it by the door. I said my goodbyes. Quick ones. No fuss. Grant called out, "Drive safe, Mom." Lila didn't look up. In the car, I sat for a long time before turning the key. Cold crept into my fingers. The street was full of warm houses. Families inside, lights on. I drove home in silence. No music, no radio, just the sound of tires and memory. At home, I unlocked the front door, stepped in, and left the lights off. The kitchen smelled faintly of sage. The rest of the casserole sat cooling on the stove. I didn't touch it. I went to the drawer again, the one under the deed. Pulled out the envelope with the return address still blank. Slid it open. Checked the signatures, checked the balance. Then I picked up the pen. I rang the doorbell twice. No one answered. I let myself in. The spare key was still where Grant told me it'd always be, beneath the loose stone tucked under a plastic fern. The house smelled like vanilla candles and takeout. I carried the casserole with both hands. Same recipe, different kitchen. "Hello?" I called out. Voices upstairs, laughter. Lila's voice. Then another, lighter, older. I didn't recognize it at first. Shoes clicked across hardwood. Lila leaned over the banister. "Mavis, you're early." She didn't smile. Her blouse looked new, earrings too. I held up the dish, brought dinner. Figured I'd stay the night if that's all right. Lila nodded. Of course. Just wait one sec. She disappeared. I stepped into the kitchen, set the dish down. No one offered to help. A few minutes later, Grant came down the stairs rubbing his neck like he'd just woken up. Hey, Mom. Didn't know you were coming, I texted. Must have missed it. I waited. He finally added, Lila's mom is visiting from Denver. She's upstairs in the guest room, just temporary. She's been feeling a bit off since the flight. I looked up. My old room, the one with the soft sheets and the view of the backyard. Oh, I said. Grant rubbed his jaw. You can still stay, of course. The basement has that pull-out couch. It's comfy enough, right? I didn't answer. He patted my shoulder like I was someone else's aunt. I'll get the sheets. The basement was cold. Smelled faintly of dust and detergent. The pull-out creaked when I sat. A single fleece blanket lay folded at the foot. Thin, light blue. I lay down, fully clothed. Above me, footsteps patted the ceiling, doors clicked, then laughter again. That other voice, Lila's mother, called out, I love this room. It's so cozy. I stared at the ceiling until the house settled. The next morning I made coffee. No one joined me. I checked the fridge. Left a note. Took the last slice of my casserole and packed it into foil. By the time I left, no one had come downstairs. In the driveway, Grant's car was gone. Lila's sat gleaming in the sun. I walked to my own car slowly. Before I climbed in, I turned back. Looked up at the window I used to call mine. Curtains fluttered. That night at home, I pulled the curtain cords closed tight, made toast, ate in silence, washed the plate. I didn't bother unpacking the overnight bag. Instead, I opened the file cabinet, took out the envelope again. Not the one with the check, the other one, the one with the deed. I yanked the drawer open. Paper rattled. Dust rose. Years of quiet stacked in layers. Inside the manila folder waited, thick, heavy. My name across the front in Thomas's careful handwriting. I pulled it out, set it on the table. The edges were worn smooth from my fingers, though I hadn't opened it in months. I flipped it open. Title deeds, savings accounts, old trust revisions, notes. Thomas had scribbled in margins, arrows pointing to clauses, underlines across dates. His handwriting was still steady even in the last year when he could barely climb the stairs. I touched each page like you'd touch a scar. The first deed, our house. Paid off long before Grant's first job. Another 2 small rental properties Thomas had bought under an LLC. I'd forgotten they even existed. They'd been sitting there, tenants paying rent every month, checks deposited automatically into a savings account Grant had never asked about. I skimmed the balances. Numbers solid, unflinching. Not fortune huge, but steady enough to stand on. At the back, clipped to a trust revision Thomas had written, for Mavis only. Protect what's yours. I closed my eyes. Felt the weight of all the birthdays, all the rooms, all the checks. All of it built on the back of this folder. Beneath the papers, an index card slid loose. Not Thomas's handwriting. A business card. Darlene Ortiz, real estate. Confidential. I turned it over. Thomas had written on the back, knows the lake region. Trusted. I sat very still. For a long time, I had convinced myself I had nothing left but memories. Nothing to push back with. Nothing to show for all the years of giving. But the folder was real. The numbers were real. The card was real. I could hear Thomas's voice the way he used to sound on winter mornings before the illness. You keep a door open, Mavis, even if it's just a crack. You'll need it someday. I slid the card into my wallet, closed the folder, stood up. The house felt different. Same walls, same furniture, but not the same anymore. I put on coffee, watched it drip. Let the bitterness fill the kitchen. Then I went back to the table, opened my phone, and found the number printed on the card. I pressed call and waited for the line to ring. I pulled out my chair last. Lila had already ordered her mimosa. Grant scrolled through his phone. They barely looked up. "Glad you could make it," Mom Grant said like I was a distant aunt who needed reminding. I unfolded my napkin, smiled, said nothing. Lila tapped her nails on the table. "So we've been looking at lake properties. Michigan side. Something quiet but modern. Open floor plan. High ceilings. Grant says we could close in 6 months." I raised my coffee. Sipped. Grant nodded. "Yeah, if bonuses land the way I think they will. Plus, Lila's clinic is scaling. She's got 2 new PAs lined up. 3, Lila corrected, grinning. And we're exploring a wellness retreat partnership. It's early, but very promising." I stirred cream into my cup. Let the silence press. Lila leaned forward, eyes bright. "We want something where both our families can visit. Maybe a big porch, fire pit. You'd love it, Mavis." She didn't say I'd stay there, just that I'd love it. Grant waved down the waiter. "We'll do the brunch board. Extra sausage. And the eggs soft, not runny." The waiter turned to me. "Just coffee," I said. "Black." Lila sighed. "You never treat yourself, Mavis? That's half the fun of brunch." I smiled tight. I'm full from earlier. They dove into planning decor investment potential Instagram views of the lake. I let their words roll past me, taking small sips. When the food came, Lila snapped a photo before letting Grant serve her. They barely paused to chew between sentences. Market trends, property taxes, color palettes. Grant checked his watch. "We've got that open house after this. Let's wrap up." The check landed. He reached for it, then stopped. Fingers hovering like it might sting. His eyes flicked toward me. Reflex kicked in. I reached into my purse. Quiet. Smooth. I set my card down. Grant exhaled. "Thanks, Mom. We'll pay next time." I nodded. Didn't flinch. Lila stood. This was lovely. So good to catch up. Outside, I watched them walk ahead, arms linked. Already pulling out Zillow, already dreaming in square footage. I drove home in silence. On the kitchen table, the folder waited. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what it meant. I opened the mailbox. Junk flyers. A utilities bill. And a folded program from Jefferson Elementary. I nearly tossed it, then saw his name. Logan Whitman, Solo America the Beautiful. I stared at it. The date printed clearly. 2 nights ago. My hand didn't shake. I just stood there. Mrs. Atkins from next door waved as she pulled into her driveway. She stepped out, holding groceries. Logan did so well the other night. That voice, she beamed. "You must be so proud." I nodded. Very. She didn't notice my face, just kept talking. "And your daughter-in-law looked stunning. That red blouse. And your grandson center stage like a star." I got a little teary, I'll admit. I walked back inside, closed the door, set the program on the counter, pulled out my phone. "Me? Why didn't anyone tell me about Logan's performance 3 dots? Then nothing. Then they came back. Grant. It was last minute. School sent the note Tuesday. You live far." I sat down. "Me. You had time to invite Lila's mom." Grant. She was already nearby, picking something up. I stared at the thread. No apology, no recognition, just geography used like an excuse to forget. I didn't reply. I made tea, then poured it out. Boiled coffee instead. Black. Bitter. Hot. I sat with it staring out the window, the leaves shaking outside like they wanted to speak. I pulled the Jefferson program closer, folded it again, slipped it into the drawer next to the folder. I didn't need fireworks or big declarations, just a seat. 1 chair in the audience. I stood, went to the study, picked up the phone again. This time I didn't text Grant. I called someone else. I called her before noon. She picked up on the second ring, warm, voice-firm tone. Darlene Ortiz. It's Mavis Whitman. I found your card. She didn't hesitate. You still looking for something off-market or did plans change? Still looking. We met that Thursday. Small cafe off 9th. I got there early. Ordered black coffee. No sugar. Darlene arrived in a slate suit, not a wrinkle in sight. Sat across from me, set her tablet down. She didn't ask why now. Didn't poke at motivation. Just opened her screen. Quiet. On water. What else? Nothing flashy. Just peace. She nodded. Privacy top of the list. Budget, I gave her the number. Her eyebrows didn't move. Name on deed mine? Only. She tilted her head but didn't pry. Kids involved. No. Not this time. She smiled, then small and approving. Let's talk lake regions. You want weekend distance or permanent move flexible? But not too far. She slid the tablet closer. Here. Lake Geneva. Michigan coast. Affordable pockets. Not touristy. You don't want Airbnb screaming through your yard. I looked. Read. Didn't speak. Just nodded when it felt right. When we wrapped, she leaned in. I won't waste your time with anything that doesn't feel like yours. I appreciate that. As we stood, she said one last thing. People come to me when they're ready. You don't sound like someone running. You sound like someone done waiting. I held her eyes. I am. She smiled. Then we'll find it. I walked back to the car lighter, not because anything had changed yet, but because I had. I signed the form. Black ink. No hesitation. Buyer intent for a lakefront cottage in South Haven. 2 bedrooms. Wraparound porch. Pines framing the edge of the lot like sentinels. Darlene handed me a folder. I slipped it into my bag. Didn't say much. Just thanked her. Shook her hand and walked out into the wind. I didn't drive home right away. I stopped at the bank. Spoke to Janice behind the counter. Been with that branch 20 years. Always remembered birthdays. Mine too, unlike my son. New account, I said. Private. Single name. No linked cards. Paper statements only. She nodded, didn't ask questions. I moved enough. Enough for a down payment the first 2 years of taxes and whatever repairs might come up. I left just enough in the joint family account to avoid suspicion. Next stop, the law office. Mr. Lambert looked older. Still wore the same tie clip Thomas gave him back when we signed our first trust agreement. He offered coffee. I declined. We reviewed the documents in silence. I adjusted the beneficiaries. Stripped Grant's name from the Lake House clause. Updated the medical directive. Named no one from the family. When he got to the last page, I slid a new letter across the table. Folded once. Neat. He read it. Said nothing. Slipped it into the will packet. I want this version in the fireproof safe, I said. No electronic copies. One physical. Witnessed. Filed. It'll be done, he said. As I walked out, I saw my reflection in the glass door. I didn't look younger or colder. I just looked clear. Back home, I locked the documents in my bedroom safe. Behind old quilts next to photo albums nobody asked to see anymore. I pressed the lid shut, twisted the dial, and rested my hand on top. The phone buzzed downstairs. I didn't move. The name on the screen would be the same. The voice would still sound like obligation. But upstairs in that locked steel box, the future had already changed. I woke early. Not from noise, from stillness. The kind that fills a room and settles behind your ribs, not empty earned. I brewed coffee, no timer, no rush. The beans were local ground fresh. I poured, slowly watched the steam curl. Outside, the lake didn't move much. A soft ripple. Morning fog lifting. I carried the mug to the deck. Bare feet. Wood still cold. A heron stood near the dock, still as glass. I snapped a photo. Then another. the mug on the railing. The fireplace inside set, but unlit. The edge of the dock where I'd stood the night before, watching stars appear one by one. The key on the table, brass and heavy. Mine. 6 shots. No faces. No names. I posted them before breakfast. No hashtags. No birthday mention. Just one line, grateful for peace. Then I turned the phone over and left it on the windowsill. I made eggs. Toasted rye. Opened the new book Jordan had mailed from Seattle. The quiet ones are loudest at the end. Her handwritten note tucked inside, celebrate you, loudly or not at all. By the time I finished breakfast, the phone buzzed 17 times, then 32. Then I stopped counting. I didn't check right away. I refilled my mug, sat by the fireplace, let the morning stretch. Then I opened the screen. Grant had texted twice. Where are you? Is this place yours? Lila left a comment under the photo of the dock. When were you even looking at lake houses? My sister Eileen messaged. Your birthday was today. Why didn't anyone know? And then Grant again. Did you pay for this outright? Why didn't you say anything? Is this from the account you opened with Dad? I didn't reply. I just scrolled. Aunt Nora had left hearts. My cousin Madeline posted. Beautiful followed quickly by, wait, did you move? But it was the silence beneath the noise that said the most. No one had called last year. No one had remembered the year before. But now they couldn't breathe without answers. Not because I was gone, but because I had never announced I was leaving. They didn't know the zip code, the view, the price, the name on the deed. I didn't give them something to dismiss. I gave them nothing, and nothing made them panic. The coffee cooled. The wind picked up off the lake. I wrapped myself in the knit blanket from the back of the couch. Closed my eyes. Let the buzzing continue. Let them wonder. Let them sweat. Tomorrow I'd meet with the inspector for the final walkthrough. The lake house was no longer a dream. It was already a boundary. A line drawn in dockwood and deed paper. And I hadn't raised my voice once. I turned off my phone. Not on silent. Not do not disturb. Off. The invitation had come 2 weeks ago, printed floral smug. Mother's brunch honoring Lila and the women who made her. I wasn't mentioned. It wasn't a mistake. They knew the date. They knew it fell on the same weekend every year. The brunch just happened to land right on top of mine. Grant's text came 3 days ago. Hope you can make it. Lila's mom is flying in. It'd mean a lot if you were there. No mention of why. No mention of me. So I packed a bag. Not much. 1 book. 1 sweater. Coffee beans. I put the address into the car GPS even though I didn't need it anymore. I liked seeing the path drawn. The city fell behind fast. Concrete gave way to trees. Traffic thinned. I rolled the windows down near mile marker 142. The wind carried cold, clean air through the cabin. I didn't speak, didn't sing, just drove. A hawk crossed above the road. I watched it go. By the time I pulled up to the house, the sun had shifted behind the tree line. The porch steps creaked. The pines swayed. I could smell rain somewhere far off. I unlocked the door, dropped my bag by the entryway, and walked straight to the deck. The lake didn't move. It just held still like it had been waiting for me. I sat, exhaled, let the silence spread. Inside, I made coffee. No brunch spread, no chatter, no Lila pretending not to look at her watch while I spoke. I sipped and stared out across the water. I didn't miss anything. They'd miss me. They'd glance toward the entryway, wait for the sound of heels, scan the driveway. Then someone would ask, did Mavis confirm she's coming? And someone else would shrug. I could see Lila force a smile, saying something like, she probably forgot. It happens. It doesn't. Grant would check his phone, see it was off. Frown. then stopped checking. No drama, no scene, just absence, and the quiet weight of it. I opened the guest room window. Let air in. The house smelled like Pine Lake and lemon oil from the furniture polish I'd used last weekend. On the nightstand, a small notebook sat open. I'd started journaling again. The first entry, May 10th, the day I stopped apologizing for being forgotten. I didn't write more. I didn't need to. Outside, the dock waited. I stepped out barefoot, walked the planks, slow one at a time. Sat on the edge, let my legs dangle. The cold shocked my feet. I didn't pull back. Across the lake, a cabin light blinked on. Someone else's quiet life. Mine too now. No forced brunch. No table where I'm welcome but not seen. No gift bags I paid for, signed in someone else's name. Just this, just here. And tomorrow, a contractor would arrive to walk the property with me. I'd hired her last week. Female-owned firm. She'd asked what kind of renovations I had in mind. I told her, something permanent. Something that doesn't get erased when someone else needs the space. I parked 2 blocks away and walked. The air was sharp, the kind that wakes your skin. I held my bag close the folder inside, heavier than it looked. The office sat above a bakery, small brass plaque on the door, Lambert and Associates. The same man who had drawn up our first trust. The same tie clip. The same steady eyes. He greeted me with a handshake. Mavis. It's been a long time. I sat. He offered coffee. I accepted this time. Black. Hot. We didn't waste words. I need a clause added, I said. Transfer restriction on the old house. Occupancy is one thing. Ownership stays with me. He nodded slowly. They're assuming it's theirs. They are. Any co-signers, liens, encumbrances? None. Paid off years ago. All in my name. He slid a blank sheet across the desk. Spell it out as you want it. I'll translate into legal language. I wrote quickly. Short sentences. Clear boundaries. No gray. He read it, glasses low on his nose. This will hold, even if they try to refinance or claim sweat equity. You'll need a notary and 2 witnesses. We can do both here. We signed. Stamped. Witnessed. No ceremony. When the papers were sealed, he handed me an envelope thicker than a magazine. Registered copy for your records. Mail it to yourself. Keep it sealed. Date-stamped mail is evidence. I held it for a moment. The weight felt like air. Thank you, I said. You're not the first parent to do this, he said softly. But you're one of the few who's prepared. I walked back to the car. The bakery smell trailed me down the stairs. At the post office, I bought a padded mailer. Addressed it to myself. Paid for registered tracking. Slid the envelope inside. Watched the clerk stamp it with the date. Proof. Back at the lake house, I set the tracking receipt on the counter. Checked my phone. 12 missed calls from Grant. 2 voicemails. 1 from Lila. I didn't listen to them. I put the receipt in the safe. Locked it. Then I opened the deck door and let the cold air roll in. I brought lemonade and a pie. Forced a smile at the door. Hugged Lila, complimented her dress. Hugged Grant. Complimented the lawn. I moved through the backyard like I belonged there. Like I hadn't been erased from this space a dozen times before. Folding chairs. Plastic cutlery. Charcoal smoke. I complimented the potato salad. Laughed when someone brought up Grant's grill technique. Asked questions about the new office renovations, the kids' camp schedule, the neighbor's dog. I stayed polite, present, just enough to avoid pity, just enough to seem fine. I watched Lila float from guest to guest, voice, sugary hands full of plates she didn't plan to clear herself. She let her mother take the lounge chair in the shade, handed her a second drink without asking. I sat on the edge of the fire pit. No flame, just ashes. Grant joined me for a moment, handed me a warm soda. Nice to have you here, Mom, he said, like it was an exception, like he'd done me a favor. I nodded, sipped, looked out over the lawn. It's a lovely turnout." He smiled, proud. Lila really pulled it together fast. "I can tell." He walked off. I stayed. Long enough to be polite, short enough to be forgettable. Later inside, I rinsed a few dishes, wiped down the counter, heard footsteps behind me, heard her voice. "She's harmless," Lila said. "Just lonely. Being nice is the least we can do." I didn't move. Someone else mumbled something about how sweet I'd been all afternoon. I mean, she probably misses being part of things, but it's fine. She just wants to feel included. I dried my hands, walked back outside. That word clanged around in my chest. Harmless. She thought I was background, a sentimental ghost, an aging woman who wandered around with pie and compliments and forgotten birthdays. They always do. They mistake softness for surrender. I smiled through the next 20 minutes, said goodbye before dessert, hugged the grandkids, waved from the sidewalk. In the car, I didn't cry, didn't curse, didn't stew. I drove straight to the lake, unlocked the front door, set the pie down untouched, pulled the envelope from the safe. The harmless one still held the deed. I poured the coffee, sat at the kitchen table, waited. They came in together, hand in hand, like news anchors ready to soften a blow. Grant started with small talk, how the kids were doing, how the neighbor's tree finally got trimmed. Lila cut straight in. "We found the one," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "The lake house," Grant clarified, his voice too cheerful. "Upstate, not too far. Beautiful views. Close to the winery loop." I nodded. "Sounds nice." They exchanged a glance. Then Lila leaned forward. "There's one small thing," she said. "The bank needs a little more collateral to speed things up. Since your name's still on the old family deed, your signature could really help." "Just symbolic." "Just a signature," Grant echoed. "You wouldn't owe anything. Just helps the approval." I stirred my coffee, didn't sip, watched the steam rise. Lila kept going. "It's all above board. I'll even handle the paperwork. It'll mean so much to us." "We've been dreaming of this for years," Grant added. "It's not like you're using the house anymore." I looked at him. He backpedaled. "I just mean you live mostly at the lake now." "It's not even really mine," I asked softly. No, I mean yes, of course it's yours. I just meant it's underused. This would give it new life. Help us build something." "You know," I folded my hands. Lila smiled. "Too wide. You've always said family sticks together." I let the silence breathe, let it stretch. Then I smiled. "I'll think about it." Their shoulders dropped, relief, as if I'd already agreed. They thanked me, hugged me, kissed my cheek, told me how much it meant. Later, after they left, I sat with the envelope again. The one marked Transfer Restriction Clause. Still sealed, still waiting. They didn't know. They didn't know they'd asked too much. They didn't know that while they were dreaming about lakefront views, I'd already stood on mine alone, quiet hole. They didn't know I'd stopped giving things away. I stood, walked to the safe, slid the envelope further back. Then I took out a different folder. The one marked Contingency. The one with names. Numbers. Next steps. Just in case. Because I wouldn't be signing anything. Not for a house. Not for silence. Not for them. And tomorrow, I'd make sure they understood that. I walked into the dining room 15 minutes early, sat at the far end of the long table. Cloth napkins, candlelight wine breathing in decanters. Lila had outdone herself. She always did when there were witnesses. The cousins came in first. Then Grant's aunt and uncle from Ohio. Then his college friend with the loud laugh and too tight shirt. Lila moved through them all, a glass in one hand, compliments in the other. When Grant ushered in the last guests, she called out, "Everyone, please find your seats. We have something to share before dinner." I watched the way she paused just long enough to make sure everyone was looking. "We've been looking at lakefront land," she said, beaming, "and we finally found it. Next spring, we're breaking ground. Our own vacation home. Grant's dream, really. Near the water, near the wineries. Applause. Smiles. Lila glowed under it. Of course, she added, eyes flicking toward me, we wouldn't be able to move so quickly without some help from family. Mavis has been incredibly supportive. Every head turned toward me. I smiled, lifted my wine. Then I reached down and pulled the envelope from my bag. Heavy paper, neatly folded. I slid it across the table. Quiet. No ceremony. Grant looked at it, confused. What's this? I nodded. Something I thought you might want to see. Lila leaned in, opened the flap, pulled the document halfway out, skimmed it, stopped. Her smile twitched. Grant took it from her, read. His face changed in stages, confusion, disbelief, panic, then flat, hollow silence. He cleared his throat. This is a deed dated 3 months ago, I said. To the property off Silver Run Lake. Cabin, dock, private access, all under my name. Someone at the far end muttered, "Wow." Lila opened her mouth closed. It opened it again. You bought a lake house. I lifted my glass again. I did. The cousins shifted. A fork clattered. Someone whispered. I thought you said you were helping us with ours, Grant said. Voice tight. You asked for my signature. I gave you silence instead. More silence. I thought you were spending time with friends on the weekends, Lila said, voice shrill now. I was. I made new ones. She looked like she wanted to scream. But the table was full. The eyes were on her. I leaned back. Calm. Steady. I've been living there. Planting flowers, painting walls, making space for peace. Grant set the deed down like it burned. You never said a word, he muttered. No, I said. I didn't. Lila snapped. Why now? Why tonight? I looked around the table. All the smiling faces, all the people who'd only ever heard their version of me. Because you stood here and claimed dreams. Dreams you haven't earned. On land you assumed was yours to walk. I thought it was time someone else had a turn to speak. I held my glass up. Let the light catch it. To spring plans, I said. And to owning what's yours, finally. And I drank. I turned off my phone. Calls came in. One after another. Then texts. Then emails. I left them all unread. I brewed coffee. Washed dishes. Wiped down the counter until the sponge caught on nothing. Then I sat at the kitchen table and stared out at the rain. By noon, Grant had called 4 times. Left 3 voicemails. The first was tight, confused. The second sharper. The third furious. You should have told us. You made us look ridiculous. Lila's humiliated. I didn't reply. The phone buzzed again. I slid it into the drawer. Let them sit with it. Let them feel what it's like to be left out of a plan. To find out something too late. To realize the spotlight isn't theirs this time. I poured another cup. Hot. Black. Bitter. That night, I walked the block just once. The air had the kind of chill that crept under your collar. I pulled my coat tighter. Nodded at Mr. Jenkins walking his dog. He raised a brow but didn't speak. Everyone had seen the moment. Some had been there. Others heard by the morning. I wasn't hiding from the ripple. I just didn't know it anything. Back home, I checked the mailbox. 2 letters. One from the bank. One from my lawyer. Updates. Confirmations. Clean paperwork. Order held. Inside the house, the silence stretched. But it wasn't empty. It had shape now. Wait. I sat at the piano. I hadn't played in years. My fingers found keys. Clumsy at first. Then slower, smoother. A tune came back, one my husband used to hum when fixing the garage light, one that used to annoy me when I was rushing. I played it through. Twice. The second time I didn't think about Grant, or Lila, or the phone buzzing under a drawer. I thought about the trees at the lake, the way the wind sounds different near water, like it has space to finish its sentence. The doorbell rang just before 9 p.m. I didn't move. It rang again. I stayed seated. They'd seen me now. That was enough. I signed the letter without blinking. 2 copies, one for the bank, one for the file in my drawer. I folded the envelope, sealed it, and drove it to the post office myself. No email, no calls, paper, stamp, proof. Inside it was plain. I, Mavis Lorraine Everhart, hereby request the immediate withdrawal of my personal share from the Everhart Family Trust per the original agreement dated April 3rd, 1998. No explanation, no justification. Just execution. The woman behind the counter weighed it, scanned it, smiled politely. Certified yes. She slid me the receipt. I folded it, once tucked it into my wallet behind my driver's license. On the way out, I bought a coffee. No cream, no sugar. Just bitter and hot. I drank it in the car while parked near the lake. Not my lake. Not yet. Just the public edge of the city reservoir. Stillness helped. So did the wind. I thought about the years that checkbook lived in the kitchen drawer. How often I used it to cover extra groceries, surprise bills, camp sign-ups, rent gaps. Grant wouldn't admit. It had never occurred to me to take from that account. Until it did, and now I had. I wasn't stealing, wasn't cheating, wasn't even hiding. My name was on the papers. Always had been. Harold, my late husband, had insisted, "Mavis, if something happens to me, don't let them crowd you out." Back then, I didn't understand what he meant. Now I did. At home, I washed my hands, took off my coat, made a sandwich, ate standing over the sink. The phone buzzed. I checked it once. Lila. "Hi, Mavis. I know you're probably busy, but Grant and I were wondering if you'd had time to look over the cosign forms. We just want to move quickly with the bank. Hope you're well." No mention of the deed. No mention of the envelope at dinner, like rewinding tape, hoping the audience forgot. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the folder from the lawyer, checked the clause again, the trust language, the withdrawal structure. Everything was clean, proper, legal. They couldn't touch what they never thought I'd claim. By the next morning, I had confirmation. The funds would transfer into the new account by Friday. Full amount. No questions. And by then, I'd already know what to do with them. I turned the key and locked the door. Click. Done. The room smelled faintly of lavender mine. I'd boxed up the books, the Afghan, the quilted pillows with my initials. The antique lamp was back in my trunk. The cedar chest emptied. The dresser drawers cleared. The space looked bare now, almost unfamiliar. No framed photo on the nightstand. No slippers tucked under the bed. Just carpet walls and a view. That was the point. Downstairs, I heard their voices. Lila. Grant. Lila's mother, Vera. "Oh, it's just for a few nights," she said brightly. "The condo plumbing's a nightmare again. You know how these things go." I didn't answer. I stirred my coffee, poured a splash of milk, sat at the kitchen table back, straight hands quiet. Grant came in first. "Hey, Mom, can we use the guest room for a couple days? Just while they sort out her water situation." I looked up. "It's not available." He blinked. "What do you mean I've reclaimed it?" Lila's heels clicked in behind him. Reclaimed. We didn't know it needed reclaiming. I didn't rise. It's no longer a shared space. I've made that clear to the lawyer. My name's on the deed. I'm still the listed owner. All rights intact. Silence. Then Lila gave a polite laugh. "Well, that's a twist. I suppose we could use the basement again. Just for a few days." "No," I said. "The basement's full, and I've arranged for deep cleaning next week. Mold remediation." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Vera appeared in the hallway, suitcase in hand. "I can stay at a hotel. It's no trouble." Grant turned to me. "Mom, this feels unnecessary." I looked at him evenly. So did forgetting my birthday. So did re-gifting a scarf. So did asking me to co-sign a loan you didn't need me for. His ears flushed red. Lila moved to speak, but Vera cut in gently. You have a lovely home, Mavis. I'll be fine elsewhere. She was the only one in the room who seemed to understand. They left the kitchen. I heard Grant mutter something about overreacting. Heard Lila say control issues. Heard a suitcase wheel bump down the porch stairs. I finished my coffee. Later, I went back upstairs. Sat on the edge of the freshly made bed. It felt smaller without the clutter, but quieter too. Mine. The next morning, I opened the curtains. Sunlight slid across the floor like it remembered me. I carried a stack of linen boxes into the closet, labeled each important docs. Lake photos, furniture receipts, trust clauses, everything in order. Everything ready. Just 2 chapters left to go. I set out 2 mugs, poured slowly, let the steam rise. Darlene arrived right on time. No clipboard, no laptop, just a wool coat and a calm smile. Still cold in the mornings, she said. I nodded. Still worth it. We walked the short path to the dock. No noise but wind and water. 2 red chairs waited at the edge. I took the one on the left. She settled beside me. Boots crossed at the ankle, hands wrapped around her mug. No questions, no small talk. Just the sound of lake water brushing the shore. You did it, she said after a few sips. I did. No regrets, I shook my head. None that still matter. She smiled, didn't press. We watched a heron glide over the water, wings wide, effortless. I get a lot of calls like yours, she said, but most don't follow through. I didn't think I would either. Not at first. What changed, I thought, for a long time. I stopped waiting for someone else to notice what I'd already earned. She nodded, sipped. Sometimes silence is the loudest line in the story. I got tired of filling space. Darlene leaned back. It's a good place, Mavis. Clean. Quiet. Yours. I glanced down at the dock wood. Cleaned it last week. Sealed it the week before. They still don't know what to make of it, I said. They don't have to, she replied. We sat that way a while longer, coffee growing cooler, air warming by inches, no planning, no fixing, just existing. Before she left, she touched my shoulder gently. Call if you ever want to sell. I won't, I said. Her smile said she already knew. After she drove off, I washed the mugs, folded, the chairs swept the deck. Back inside, I opened the drawer near the fireplace. Pulled out one last envelope. Not a threat. Not a trap. Just a decision sealed and ready. I poured the coffee slow. Steam curled, rose, vanished. The mug warmed my palms as I stepped onto the deck. Cold boards under bare feet. No sound but the lake breathing gently at the shore. I set the mug down. Still mine. Black letters. No decoration, no flourish. No one texted. No one called. I hadn't posted photos. No captions. No updates. Not this time. They knew now. Not everything. Just enough. That the deed wasn't shared. That the trust wasn't theirs. That I hadn't just moved, I had chosen. The sun crept higher, laying gold across the water. I watched it touch the dock. The chair the pine needles caught in the railing. Let it warm what it could. Inside the house was clean, ordered, quiet. A new shelf held the books I never loaned out. The quilt sat folded over the couch just how I liked it. The fridge was full. The keys hung on one hook, only one. Mine. I didn't check the phone, didn't unlock the screen. Whatever they had to say, they'd had years. I sipped. Let the bitterness settle. Not harsh. Just real. I walked the deck's edge. Let my hand trail the wood. When I reached the railing, I picked up the mug again. Held it steady. Looked out. Not for anyone. Not to be seen. Just to be. The air was cold. But I stayed. Because peace, when it finally comes, doesn't ask permission. It simply sits beside you. And if peace is louder than any apology, Why would you ever go back?